U.S. indices are fairly quiet as we creep towards significant resistance. Before we start, a quick word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by XNES, the world's leading retail brokerage firm offering ultra-fast execution and no overnight fees. Look for a link in the description below. The Nasdaq 100 has been somewhat choppy and quiet in pre-market trading, but that's not a huge surprise considering that we have a CPI number coming out. But at this point in time, the thing that I would pay the most attention to is the fact that we are right smack dab in the middle of the candle that began all of the massive selling. So with that being the case, it's interesting that we find ourselves right in the middle of it. And of course, we find ourselves very close to the all-time highs. After all, every headline I see is doom and gloom, but here we are. So with that being said, you trade what you see, you trade the numbers, you trade the market, you don't trade the headlines. The Nasdaq is a perfect example of this because as the world was ending, the Nasdaq was ripping to the upside. We now find ourselves within a couple of percent of making an all-time high again. I do think that happens, but we may get a short-term pullback. I look at short-term pullbacks at this point in time as very likely to be buying opportunities. The Dow Jones 30 finds itself pressing against that 43,000 level. If we can get above 43,000, then we could go to 43,500 and beyond. This is a little bit of a laggard, and it might make a little bit more sense due to the fact that a lot of the tariffs will directly influence what goes on with some of the bigger blue chip companies. Now, having said that, it still looks like a market that's doing everything it can to break through this barrier. And once it does, you'll probably get a bit of a short squeeze. Pullbacks at this point in time should be buying opportunities, with the 42,000 level offering significant support, not only due to the psychology and the previous action, but the moving averages, both the 50-day and the 200-day EMA, sitting just below it, which, by the way, just crossed to form the so-called golden cross. The S&P 500 finds itself above the 6,000 level, and at this point in time, I think we're just somewhat in a holding pattern. I do think we eventually test the highs again. I mean, at this point, we've come so far, why wouldn't we? But I also recognize that short-term pullbacks are very likely, just due to the grinding nature of the recent part of the rally. A little bit of exhaustion would make a certain amount of sense, but I think the 5,800 level continues to be a major area to watch underneath for trend direction. As long as we're above that level, I look at each and every pullback as a potential buying opportunity. My name's Chris. I work for FXEmpire. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more analysis.